Welcome to the talk. The Emancipation of the Gutmensch is a German derisive term for do-gooder. I got my own towel to the tissue today, not because I want to cry, but because my nose is a bit stuffed up. I'm so thankful for you all of being here, and I have a message that's a bit ripened a bit over the last year, and I noticed that the biggest part of society is reproducing errors that we as Muslims, people of color, refugees, migrants, do for a long time. I'm a bit disappointed by that, I'm a bit sad, but I think this is not something you can change, but it's something you can work on, and I want to share this with you.
Ich möchte über die Emanzipation der Gutmenschen oder des Gutmenschen
I want to talk about the emancipation of the do-gooder. Maybe not all of you are really identifying with that, but no, they are meant. Like, I know I'm okay with being a do-gooder, but I want to define myself what that means. I'm an intellectual cleaning
intellektuelle Putzfrau.
A woman. I was an intellectual cleaning woman. I gave up this job when Brexit wasn't decided yet. Trump wasn't a president. Incarceration of journalists in Turkey wasn't happened. Authoritarian regimes were a danger that looked a bit abstract, far away, not personal, because their families and the families were living there. Aren't living there. And for these people, it was easy to see at the hate and the rise of right-wing populists in internet, because they didn't belong to a marginalized group, because they had the luxury of ignoring, of not seeing, because their existence wasn't put into a question. Muslima, black people, sexual minorities, other people didn't have these luxuries. But in me, the anger about these ignorant people who could afford ignorance was boiling. A lot of people resignated, they pulled themselves back, they asked themselves, what is my space in this society when there's a party that is exclusively built on excluding people. Others were fighting on, took numbers, statistics, explained and explained. But with that, they we legitimized these questions. Us, the victims, we did activism and we legitimized this discussion that put us into question. And we helped with the question if Islam belongs to Germany, knowing that the question may be, no, it doesn't. Knowing that it might be just a small step that to say that Muslims don't belong to Germany. And the most absurd questions distanced us from terror when it was clear that we wouldn't say yes to terror. I don't take it personally. Don't be so emotional. So we shut them down. I shut down my emotions for years. But last year I had enough to just say, yeah, I can go easily into discussions where my existence gets put into questions, as if I didn't have a problem to discuss with racists if Muslims are genetically dumber or not. I have enough to be the intellectual cleaning woman for society, to try to defend against the biggest damage, to be always ready for the next idiot who wants to legitimize Islam critics. In the last speech last year, I changed the whole script in my hotel room, and I hoped talking clearly would be less emotional and I could be more rational, more neutral. And so I howled like a puppy, but was overwhelming, the positive reactions, the love, and the question, well, how do we organize this love? But it wasn't me alone who wanted to answer this question. I just wanted to show that what's happening now is not normal, it hurts. It makes me afraid that we have to do something together, have solutions together. But I didn't want to say alone what these solutions are, but Brexit happened, Trump happened, the push to Turkey happened, and hope went away, people closed their eyes, but others woke up. Because this last year was the first year where people felt something, where we all knew. We knew that in this Germany we were a historical exception. We knew that never there has been so long peace for so long in Western Europe. But it's fundamentally different to feel something than just knowing it. That more and more people felt that there was a historical exception. They felt that there isn't anything guaranteed. That we don't know if the future is better than the past.
I have to do something is what people write, what a lot of people write, but I don't know what. So the plurality of solutions and the long-term change is what's going to happen with that. But coming to the stage where you have solutions, you need to understand your own role, your own actions. You have to reflect the fact that you might be part of the problem. But that is not a reason to not be part of the solution. So what is the strategic of right-wing populist? It's dictatorship. It's dictatorship of dictating the content, dictating what form we deal with these things, dictating the constant repetition of what we deal with until we start believing what they talk about and until we forget our own. Currently, I see a culture in the online community that their main focus is to criticize and find the flaws in other people. And this is how you make yourself rise up, and this is how you put yourself higher above others. How quickly can we compromise other people and point the finger and look down on them and kick them with our words online? In the echo chamber of the internet, we scream our opinions out into the world, but we only hear the ones that echo our own opinions, and that's how we drift apart further and further, and some people become radicalized. And this is how the internet becomes a fantastic ground of extremists of all couleurs. Are we aware of this threat? What happens when we only read opinions that reflect our own opinions, that support our ideas, and when the algorithms only show us what they think, what we want to read? Are we aware of this threat? What does it do to a society to only have this misconstructed view of the society that we live in? And this is how we stand in front of human beings, and we apparently speak the same language, but we don't really get to each other. Whether or not we speak the same language, we do not speak in the same meaning. There's no common ground where we build up our conversation, where we can get closer to one another. How can we then have norms, societal togetherness be so what kind of grounds does the internet offer for the next generation? What are going to be the opinion makers of tomorrow? And what is with the people that build the audience in this scenario, that see the hate, that react to the hate? Look around. The perception of these scenarios, it changes us. It does change us. How many times have I heard in the last months about hate in this society? Islam, women, migrants, refugees, those are topics, those are polarizing. No. Those topics are not per se polarizing. They're being polarized by blogs and forums and threads dominating our public discourse and debate. And I cannot stress this enough. The hate in the comment section is not a generically grown thing. We think that these comment sections reflect on the societal opinion, but honestly, these comments threads, blogs, and right populists are being organized by right populist groups. They target specific articles to give the appearance that certain subjects, such as migrations, refugees, women, are not something that we should have as a part of public discourse. They recenter our perception of what is normal. It's not just an attempt to quiet people, to shut them up, but it's an attempt to change the public audience. Imagine you're sitting here in this audience, which shouldn't be that hard, and you actually agree with what's being put up on stage, but next to you is somebody that constantly is shaking your head. And right now he's maybe interrupting and screaming. But even though you don't necessarily support their opinion, but it doesn't really take that long for you to be like, well, maybe it's a bit questionable what's being put up on stage. And this is how rights become questionable. And this is exactly what these commentators and forums are attempting to do. They're trying to not just influence the people who are writing, they're trying to influence the people who are reading. And this is how hate speech becomes something that's acceptable to do in society. And for years and years and years, we've stepped into these traps. We've reacted to these provocations, and we've discussed them in every medium, in every way, shape, or form. And this is how they influenced and dominated our political agenda, and they dictated what we talked and how we talked about. We made the AfD, the German right-wing populist party, this big. We created the discourse and made it as big as it is. Because after Gauland's words on Boateng, we, for many, many days, discussed whether or not a black person can actually be a good neighbor in many talk shows. What a pity, what a shameful thing. The interesting, no, the sad thing, the disappointing thing, those are just dynamics that I know from Muslim communities that especially after September 11th went into that kind of self-defense mode. And the smartest and most educated ones from us we send out into the world to explain and excuse that the terror has nothing to do with us. And look at us 16 years later, and when I look back, the constant self-defense that we had to have, we neglected to have a discussion within the Muslim community ourselves. In public sphere, we couldn't have these discussions anymore.
Because we wouldn't want to put oil into the fire. The critics of Islam are now the loudest voices criticizing problematic things in Muslim-dominated countries, not Muslims themselves. And because we let right-wing populists dictate the debate, we couldn't put any light on our own topics. There was just one panel on the topic of education. No constructive discussion standards anymore, because we only thought about how to react to the haters. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy where the saying that the do-gooders are not talking about problems starts becoming true. But we don't want to become devil's advocates. We have to have our own agenda with discussion points, which is constructive and putting forth a solution. We discuss about sexism in Muslim communities without going into racism, which is hard, but I have 3 wishes. Firstly, the emancipation of the do-gooder. We have to emancipate ourselves from the debates others are putting us through. What are you for? What are you fighting for if this hatred wouldn't be there in this society? What are you for? What are you standing for? Last year I asked myself this question: who would I be what would I do, what would I write if there were no racism, there were no hatred in this society? And in the first moment I didn't know shit. I had no answer. From the beginning, a quote: the dictatorship of the ever repeating activity with these topics until we forget ourselves. I had forgotten myself. What would you stand up for? What do you think the solution would be for a better society? Equality of chances, basic income, stuff like this. What are you doing with our environment, consume, whatever. Fight for that. Topicalize the topics you want to talk about. Sustainably, constructively, discuss with each other, talk to each other, ask parties what they think about this, so that refugees that we don't vote for or against refugees, but for the ideas of a better future, so we can fight for so we can vote for a better future and not against a worse. So let's have talks without having a stance. What can we do? I think art and culture, popular culture, has the responsibility to have responsibility, because it doesn't have it right now, because our mainstream culture always only talks about contexts of things that are bad, so we only see them as problems. They become a cliché. And the problem with clichés is, a Nigerian author said, Ngozi Adichie, the problem is not that they are untrue, but they are not complete. They make one story to the only story. And she tells us how the singular story robs people of their human rights. When she taught in a school in the US as a teacher, and a student came to her who has read a book of her where a dad was abusive, and they said that this dad was so abusive, and maybe all dads in Africa are that violent. And she said, yeah, there's also American Psycho, and it's so bad that American men become serial killers so often and easily. So why is American Psycho not a mirror for the whole American society? Holy shit. We know all facets of life, but how is it with other people, other groups in our society? How do we experience them? How do we experience minorities? So we don't only see ourselves as a collective, but as humans, individuals, people that have multiple layers, that are complex, not only black and white, but multi-layered, colorful. Only that is equivalent to the actual human value, because the other discussions are dehumanizing us. Only when marginalized groups are in our popular culture, in our TV series, in our videos, with all the errors and what's great about them as individuals, in this part, the way they will become human, even to those who don't know them. And third, I wish for kindness, and I saw some ways for solution, and I saw how people attacked each other. Why can't we make errors and allow ourselves to learn? Like, that's a lot of pressure, having these ideals with all these things we could do wrong, with all these minorities we could hurt. We are threatening ourselves with not being able to do anything. Sometimes we'll be afraid to do or speak, and be afraid to go onto the playing field of life and not only sit on the seats and not get cramped up and not get lethargic. We have to be nice to each other and being nice and criticizing and having arguments and not just some mean arguments without context. Not a competition, but opening a door for betterment. We are humans. We will do errors all the time. We will hurt and be hurt with all kinds of discriminatory speech and actions. Hopefully, we didn't want to, and hopefully we are ready to learn. The way is to go to have a gender equal, just society without discrimination. We won't be able to do this in the near future, and I'm sure this won't happen in my lifetime. But of course, we are not safe from discrimination in every way, every day, in all our ideals, because they are ideals.
Every action that we do take and act out is a compromise between the ideals and the reality that we're surrounded with. That's the only way that we can act. No one's perfect. There's people that are a bit more consequential with their ideals, maybe because they're braver, or maybe they're more privileged, because they have certain other fights that they don't have to fight. Sometimes it's just good that there's no personified ideal that you have to be, or that you can be that you attempt the impossible, and that every day you fail a little tiny bit. And Roxane Gay, she's quoting her now. I embrace the label of bad feminist because I am human. I am messy. I'm not trying to be an example. I'm not trying to be perfect. I am not trying to say I have all the answers. I'm not trying to say I'm right. I'm just trying to support what I believe in, try to do some good in this world, try to make some noise, and also being myself. We all try, and we're always trying to give our best, and that should be enough sometimes. Let's not just fight against the dictatorship of right populism, but for what we stand for, that we think together, that if in doubt we do fight and have arguments, but do it with kindness and don't forget ourselves in these discussions. Thank you very much.
Dein Applaus.
Your applause, Kübra Gümüşay.
Mensch.
Do we still have time? Now you have to say something. Oh, all right. Oh, I thought we had time for Q&A. All right, no, we do have time for Q&A, but you were so excited, so I just wanted to give you that. I was so excited. Oof, so nervous, because with so much love, there's probably going to be hate afterwards. We have 2 microphones in the audience. Are there questions? Are there remarks? Nobody likes to step up now, except for the fact that I spoke too fast, and I know that. I already know that. Oh, but everybody can look that up online. Somebody has a question. Yeah, the microphone is coming to you. Applause for the volunteers who have been running around all day. Please stand up and introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Ibu. I'm a blogger. Thank you so much for your personal presentation. That was very surprising. It's a very simple question. I think a lot about these subjects. What can you tell the silent majority? Like, there's legitimate criticism. How do you tell people that not everything that you see critical has to be against human beings? I think that the problem is that we don't really create those spaces where we can have debates, where we have discussions, not just about migration and refugees, but like, where are the spaces, where are the public spaces where we can express our ideas that have not been thought until the end? Where are the spaces where we can express doubt, where we can talk amongst one another and say things without having to show off, but really just kind of collaborate together and like think together, create one thought and combine it with another. And for 2 years ago, when I came back to Germany, I just didn't think that I had access to these spaces. And I started asking around, because the internet used to be this space where I could think and grow, but I don't feel that that's the place anymore. The internet is the place and space where you can present the ideas that have been thought through. And I've been longing for these spaces where I can grow and develop. And I realized these spaces don't really exist anymore. I realized that Twitter and Facebook obviously create incentives. We tend to use what has been said and what we say and like put it on show and display and show our cool way of thinking and how cool and reflective we are when it comes to the problems of the world. But honestly, I'm really interested in all the things that we're not expressing. How can a democracy function and work when we don't have spaces where we can fundamentally question things, where we can question things without being judged for these questions? And because the lack of these spaces, I believe the lack of these spaces where we can, without judgment, without wanting to trump the other one or show off and be better than the other one, because the lack of this space where we can continue someone else's thought, we have these situations where we have the feeling that we can't address certain things that we are unhappy with. I've been traveling across Germany and was with many parties and with like green colors, that there's people in local politics where they feel they can't really express certain concerns anymore. And they felt very limited and numbed by that. I think we need to look at that. We need to pay attention to that. We need to talk a lot. We need to debate. We need to discuss. We need to think. And that will be the solution to resolve this. And we have to stop seeing ourselves in relation to hate and look at the discourse that we're having. And we need to create the spaces for ways of thinking, ways of doubting, ways of creating new ideas. Are there any more questions from the audience? Well, then I think you've said many, many important words, and we can let them stand them on their own and Twitter them and share them. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for listening in to our translation work. If you want to give us feedback, you can do that under the hashtag RP17EN on Twitter. And this talk was translated for you by Siri and Merle.
Die heißt einfach auf